The loudest voices in real estate usually present two distinct realities. In one, keeping your apartment means throwing money away on rent. In the other, signing a 30-year mortgage is a financial trap that limits your freedom. The pro-homeownership side almost always leads with the ending. They show you a paid-off house worth over $500,000 after 2 decades, but they skip exactly what it cost in unrecoverable fees and interest to reach that point. The pro-renting side focuses entirely on lower monthly cash flow and location flexibility. They treat those perks as absolute victories, while acting as if compounding long-term inflation doesn't exist. Neither side runs the full math. By ignoring the hidden long-term costs attached to both paths, standard online housing advice is mathematically useless. To find the actual break-even point, we have to look at a controlled scenario. Take two 32-year-olds, Jake and Marcus. They each earn an $80,000 salary. They both have $70,000 saved in the bank, and they live in the same mid-sized city. Jake buys a home, Marcus keeps renting. Comparing their choices requires tracking the unrecoverable dollars. That means accounting for closing costs, property taxes, maintenance, and the compound growth of cash invested in the market. We have to run a full 20-year life cycle analysis. We are not looking at who has the cheapest monthly payment in year 1. We are tracking who holds the highest total net worth at year 20. The winner of this debate is rarely decided by the spreadsheet alone. The real math relies heavily on a person's exact time horizon and human psychology. Jake buys a $350,000 home. He puts his entire $70,000 savings down to hit exactly 20% and avoid private mortgage insurance. On day 1, his liquid savings are completely drained. The moment he signs at the closing table, he takes an immediate unrecoverable hit. Closing costs run between 2 and 5% of the purchase price. Lender fees, title insurance, attorney fees, and prepaid taxes push his real day 1 out-of-pocket cost past $82,000. This chart shows exactly where a year 1 mortgage payment goes. On a 30-year loan at a 7% interest rate, the vast majority is interest, not equity. Roughly $1,600 a month goes straight to the lender. Only $230 reduces his actual loan balance. Add in taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and Jake has over $2,600 going out the door with almost no equity attached. Marcus signs a lease for a comparable home in the same neighborhood for $2,000 a month. Looking at the total unrecoverable output, the renter's cost is actively lower than the buyer's. In year 1, Jake is throwing away over $2,600 a month on unrecoverable housing costs. Marcus is throwing away $2,000 a month on rent. In the early years, the renter is throwing away less. If Jake decides to sell, he faces a seller's commission of 5 to 6% of the sale price. On a $500,000 home, that is $25,000 to $30,000 leaving his pocket before he sees any profit. Combine the massive front-end closing fees with the back-end selling commission. Buying a house and selling it within the first 5 years carries a very high probability of taking a financial loss compared to renting. Jake also assumes the liability of mandatory maintenance. A standard rule is to budget 1% of the home's value annually, meaning he needs to set aside thousands of dollars a year just to keep the property functioning. Budgeting algorithms assume $200 for caulk and light bulbs. Reality delivers a $9,000 roof replacement, a $7,500 HVAC system, and $4,000 foundation repairs. Those bills have due dates. Marcus has zero maintenance liability. If the water heater breaks, he calls his landlord. He took the $70,000 he didn't spend on a down payment and invested it in a total stock market index fund, while adding the $653 monthly difference between his rent and Jake's total housing costs. This line graph plots the reality of opportunity cost. By putting $70,000 into a down payment, Jake removes it from the market. At a 10% average annual return over 20 years, that initial capital would have grown to roughly $470,000 in an index fund. That is the exact alternative outcome the buyer trades for home equity. By year 10, Marcus holds roughly $290,000 in a liquid stock portfolio. He can access that cash any business day. Jake has over $230,000 in home equity, but it is trapped inside the walls of his house. Liquidity matters severely when life throws a sudden medical emergency or a job loss at you. Jake cannot sell while Marcus's rent climbs exponentially. Jake's principal and interest payment stays anchored to his original $1,863. As everything around him gets more expensive, his housing cost effectively gets cheaper. By year 20, Marcus's rent has climbed to roughly $3,600 a month. The cost advantage he started with is entirely gone, and his ability to invest the difference shrinks rapidly as rent absorbs more of his income. Jake carries concentration risk. His entire net worth is tied to the economic health of one specific city and one neighborhood. If local industries collapse or the region stagnates, his primary asset drops in value, and he cannot easily rebalance his portfolio. Marcus avoids the geographic trap entirely, but he carries market risk. To build his wealth, he has to survive steep market corrections and hold his investments through severe volatility without panicking and selling to cash. Holding a 30-year mortgage buys you powerful, fixed protection against long-term inflation, but forces you to wager your financial future on a single zip code. Every analysis that shows renting outperforming buying is built on one massive assumption: perfect investment consistency. It requires the renter to invest every dollar of the cost gap, every month, for decades. The statistical reality is that most renters do not do this. When the number in their bank account grows, they upgrade to a nicer apartment, take vacations, and inflate their lifestyle instead of buying index funds. Jake's mortgage acts as an automated, non-negotiable mechanism. Every month, a portion of his payment goes to principal. It is a forced savings vehicle built into his cost of living. That enforced discipline guarantees that wealth is built. It is the primary reason average homeowners end up drastically wealthier than renters in reality. A flawed financial strategy you stick to will always beat a mathematically perfect strategy you abandon. This decision tree maps out how to apply these numbers to your exact situation, cutting through generic advice. Start with your local price-to-rent ratio, the home price divided by the annual rent for a comparable property. If the ratio is below 20, the numbers lean heavily toward buying. If it is above 25, renting and investing often takes the mathematical lead. Renting wins clearly if you plan to move within the next 5 years, if your local housing market is severely overpriced, and if you have the strict discipline to invest your savings automatically. Buying wins clearly if you are staying in one place for at least 7 to 10 years, if you need a fixed payment to protect against inflation, and if you benefit from the structure of forced savings. This decision comes down to 2 questions. How long are you actually planning to stay in one place? And if you rent, are you honestly going to invest the difference? Stop asking which asset class is mathematically superior on a blank spreadsheet. The right choice only appears when you match your financial strategy directly to your actual habits and your lifestyle constraints.